On March 22nd, Clinton News Network aired an hour-long documentary called The Rise of Christian Nationalism, produced for The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper. In it, they took a definition, the simple belief that America was founded as a Christian nation and that its laws and institutions should reflect Christian values, and they weaponized it. They embedded with extreme, isolated groups and presented them as representative of tens of millions of ordinary church-going, Bible-reading, flag-loving Americans. This is the classic corporate media playbook. They take a mainstream conviction held by half the country and slap a radical fringe label on it to scare the public and shame believers into silence. They want you to think that acknowledging our history is a threat to democracy. But if you strip away the progressive spin and look at the cold, hard data of our founding, you realize that what Clinton News Network calls a dangerous fringe label is actually an undeniable founding fact. They are running out of audience, so they're manufacturing monsters to stay relevant. And the libtards are swallowing the narrative without ever picking up a history book. Let's dismantle the media's narrative with the primary sources they hope you never read. The establishment wants you to believe the founders were all secular deists who wanted a strict wall to completely purge faith from public life. The historical record says the exact opposite. Look at John Adams, who explicitly wrote in 1798, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Look at Patrick Henry, who stated that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Even Thomas Jefferson, the man the left constantly misquotes regarding the wall of separation, attended Christian church services inside the literal United States Capitol building while he was serving as president. The Declaration of Independence itself bases our entire system of liberty on a theological fact that our rights are not granted by a king, a parliament, or a bureaucrat in Washington, but are endowed to us directly by our Creator. If you remove God from the American equation, you remove the very foundation that makes individual liberty possible. That isn't nationalism. It's basic American history. This secular capture of our history didn't happen by accident. It's a coordinated effort by the progressive establishment to make Christian civic engagement look like extremism. They want to create a world where a school board can transition a child in secret, where the medical establishment can break healthy bodies for profit, and where any parent who stands up and says, "This violates my Christian faith," is labeled a domestic terror threat by a weaponized Department of Justice. They use labels like Christian nationalist the exact same way they use racist or fascist as a psychological tool to force you into defensive compliance. They want you to stop voting your values. They want you to lock your faith inside the four walls of your church and leave it there. But the 2024 election delivered the clearest popular mandate in a generation precisely because parents, families, and believers looked at this institutional rot and said, no more. The faith that built this country, that grounded the abolition movement, and that carried 2.5 centuries of self-governance is exactly as dangerous to modern tyranny as the founders intended it to be. They call your faith dangerous because it's powerful. It's the only thing that stands between an all-powerful state and the total surrender of individual sovereignty. We do not apologize for our heritage. We do not apologize for our faith, and we will not be shamed into silence by a failing cable news network. Know your history, stand on the evidence, and refuse to let the establishment manage what you're allowed to believe. Check us out at titdusa.com. Stand with us, support the mission, refuse the silence, and I'll see you next time.